welcome you back to this technical session of Day 2 of CFC 2017. The theme of the session is Adaptations to Climate Change. Continuing the tone set in the previous session here, discussion shall be based on adaptation of the various forests, including mangroves of coastal regions and agriculture to the climate change, role of RED initiative, and potential pathogens emerging because of climate change. Here we have amongst us the moderator of the sessions, Sir Harry Studholme, Chairman Forestry Commission, England, Scotland. He has owned and managed forests in southwest England for over 25 years. He has been a GB Forestry Commissioner 2007 until appointment interim chair for January 2014, 13 to January 2014, and then chair in March 2014. This is his second term as chair of board of Forestry Commissioner. Welcome you, sir. And our second moderator of the session is Dr. RBS Rawat, former PCCF of Forest and HOF, Head of Forest Force, IFS of 1978 batch from Uttarakhand cadre. As forest managers, his commitment towards upheaval in ecosystem and recharging the natural environment and resources are well acknowledged and appreciated. Welcome you, sir. We have 5 presenters amongst us. First is Guangyu Wang, and second is Eduardo Jose from Mozambique. Third presenter is Mohammad Rabiul Alam from Bangladesh, Dr. VRR Singh from India, and Muthama from Kenya. Our rapporteur teams for the session comprises of Dr. S.K. Sharma, Dr. Mridula Negi, Sri Manas. Now I would like to hand over the stage to our moderators for the conduction of session. Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, and thank you all very much for coming. Adaptation to climate change is in all our minds, really. That last year, 2016, was the warmest year on record, and the third of a series of 3 years in which records were broken. So adaptation to climate change is fundamental to every part of the world in how we respond to this threat, just as much as the issues of trying to prevent it. So I'm looking forward, as I'm sure you are, to the various speakers. So without any more sort of collateral starting off, I will hand over to Guangyu Wang, who will be talking about the adaptation of Asia-Pacific forests to climate change.
Good afternoon. It's my pleasure to give the talk today on behalf of the INES and our research group. The topic is adaptation of the Asia-Pacific forestry to the climate change. This is the research project was funded by APFNEC. John Ennis just mentioned this morning as one of the funding agencies from China. Give the funding for research and forestry education. This is a 6-year project. If we normally give the training program, we need to have the 1 week. So if you give me the 10 minutes, I can only just give the summary of the research we are doing and all the framework what we are doing in this project. And also we hope that through this talk, we can find a partner in India. I just talked to the one lady yesterday. They are very interested in our research modeling. So I will give my talk is why we do the research in climate change in the Asia-Pacific region. What the expert was thinking about what the key issue in this region, and what our strategy for the forest adaptation. And I'm sure a little bit our pilot study to explore the best management practice. So the Asia-Pacific region is one of the vulnerable region for the climate change. So I think in India, the same thing as we had a lot of the climate issue in the last decades. So we see the flooding, the drought, the forest fire, disease and insects is everywhere in the Asia-Pacific region. So, and also the desertification in the northern China and the flooding in not only in China, it's all the Southeast Asia as well. So in the 2014, in the Asia-Pacific region, only is we have the total loss and 60 billion US dollar, and 6,000 people was died before because the natural disaster. So the first is the climate change is changing a lot of physical condition and the biological condition of the forest. So we are thinking, you see the forest now can grow in current climate. Can they grow to adapt in a new climate? So for that kind of to answer those issues, we do the expert surveys in the Asia-Pacific region to identify what the impact on the climate change and the forest adaptation in this region, to explore what the potential we can do on the climate change. So we're doing this, before we conduct the research, we do the surveys, we distribute our questionnaire to the main expert in the Asia-Pacific region. And this is the result we got from the expert. And the key issue is drought and flooding is a key issue in the region. And the loss of the biodiversity and the forest fire is one of the concerns in that region as well. So we to see what the most important challenge for the forestry sector to adapt the climate change. And this, the first thing is public awareness, and second thing is a lot of the scientific guidance. So we asked them what the scientific the issue. The answer is the understanding of the local predicted climate change scenario, because they need to have the climate modeling and understand the ecosystem dynamic, and also the forest adaptation technique. So what is the key thing for this region? So we are thinking that when the climate change, the forestry, the productivity, the climate niche is shift. So they used to be in the region, in this area, and now it's changing. So the forest productivity is changing when the climate is changed. So in the phase 1, we are working on the climate modeling. So this is the key thing for the regional climate adaptation strategy. So if you are working in a climate change, if you don't know what the change in the future, I believe that you're just talking, right? So the first thing we just did is to develop the very accurate climate modeling. And second thing is we use remote sensing and the ecological modeling to mapping the change of the ecosystem. And we use a system dynamic strategy to do the forest planning, and to use adaptation strategy to do the trade-off analysis. So this is the framework we are using. The first thing is how much is the climate going to change, and what will be the impact on the climate change, and how to adapt the climate change. So to answer the first issue, first question, we need to develop climate modeling. A second thing, you need to do assessment. A third thing, you need to do adaptation strategy. So this is the high resolution climate modeling we are developing. I don't want to go to detail on how to develop that modeling. It's probably take me for 4 hours to explain it, how to do it. So this is a modeling model we develop through the Asia-Pacific region. So that model, you can from this web model, you can click any point in the Asia Pacific region, you can get the climate data. So, so after the second thing, we do the remote sensing data analysis to see the NDVI change in the last like 30 years in the Asia Pacific region. And then we're doing the impact assessment to see what is the impact on the climate change. So we use a niche-based modeling and a process-based modeling to model the first thing is distribution of the forest species. The second thing is to modeling the productivity in the future climate. And then we do also to develop the hybrid model to do the trade-off analysis. So this is one of the area we are working on is in China, and to look at the Chinese first, and one of them very important the timber species in China, and you see used to be that the species is distributed widely in the Asia in the Southeast China, and after 2080 to 2100 is the species is almost gone. So we also look at the Chinese part in the northern China. Is you see the species is moving to the northwest. So we're also doing the modeling in the blue gums in Australia. You can see the blue gum is going to the southward. So and then we're doing this is after doing the ecological modeling, we're doing the integration about the different model that we employ 8 niche model and process-based model to see the spatial to do the spatial analysis. So this is a model we are using, but it's in the integration of the different kind of the model in the different the site conditions. In the second phase, we are working in Laos, Myanmar, and Malaysia, Taipei, and Yunnan to see what the local the species reaction to the climate change. We choose teak and choose acacia in Malaysia and teak in Laos and Myanmar. So this is the area we are working with the species. So then we're doing the final thing is to do adaptation modeling. And this is the 7 climate-related indicator to present the key management objective. And we're running the productivity through the forecast model. And then we put it on the production into the season dynamic modeling. And we look at the biomass, carbon, water, ecosystem service. Through ecosystem service, they have a whole bunch of things as well. And then we use a patchwork, and we have developed 2 kinds of the modeling. This is modeling can use very detailed inventory data. So we're doing the environmental, water, and carbon, and then do the trade-off analysis. So this is the basic research we are doing, and this is the web-based tour we are through our research projects. So if you go to the Asia Pacific Forestry Net, you can go to the website. If you need to learn more about our adaptation project, you can go to our website. And so for the conclusion, forest adaptation and mitigation strategy is need to have scientific base to use the best available model and tool. And when you're doing the regional specific research, it's crucial to generate the adaptive forest management strategy for the given region and a given environmental, social, and political condition. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Wong. Now, we straightway go to the presenter number 2, Dr. Eduardo Jose from Mozambique. And his topic is very, very relevant so far as impact of climate change and subsequently adaptation to agriculture sector is concerned. So I request Dr. Jose, please.
Thank you very much to the panel. Distinguished scientists in forests, ladies and gentlemen. Before my counting down, I would like to ask for indulgence of the principal panel to give me a minute before. I would like to remember that these 40 countries of Commonwealth joined here, less one, Mozambique, is not English spoken. We are Portuguese spoken. However, we are member in plenitude of this Commonwealth. For this reason, all our, as Mozambican people, knowledge, we used to say in our hard disk memory, everything is saved in Portuguese. Every time we translate from Portuguese to English, and the opposite way is valid too. But let me try to do this translation as correct as possible. Like so, don't follow me, but follow my idea. Thank you. Can I? Is it all right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's next.
All right. My issue is climate change, adaptation process in agriculture, and adoption of resilient technologies in southern Mozambique. Looking to the left, we'll see the world. This green map here is Mozambique, at the opposite side of Madagascar, the biggest island in that place. My God. And what you are showing here, what I'm showing here, is the real situation of that country. Dryness on down, where animals, people die. On right, fire, uncontrolled fire. And up, you will see the people crossing the river, running from water, villages completely flooded. It means that we are at the country where if you don't die due dryness, you have opportunity to die due water. Ladies and gentlemen, we are from Agricultural Research Institute of Mozambique at Forest Research Center, and my name is Eduardo Masinge. How is the environmental health of Mozambique? Shifting cultivation. Traditional charcoal production. Kilns in Gaza province, the south of this world. Forests, fire, and loss of biodiversity on left. Forest exploitation, logs everywhere. The natural disasters vulnerability show us that In Mozambique, the last 5 years records shown an increasing trend in the frequency of extreme weather events due to meteorological nature. If we look clearly to this graphic, we will see that in 2000, we had the top of floods and consequently other situations, disease and so on. Our floods occur every year. Tropical cyclone every 3 to 4. Tropical cyclones to 3 to 4 years. A few factors affecting agricultural productivity in this country. Causes of soil degradation, animal grazing, overgrazing, the most important, with impact about 49%. Uncontrolled fires, as you saw. Deforestation, overuse charcoal, etc. Soil erosion, soil nutritional loss, soil salinization, physical deterioration of soil. Impacts are clear. Production of the quality life of rural communities going down indeed. Migration to the urban area, and hunger and poverty. Poor ability to withstand natural disasters and mitigate the effects. Here down, we're showing a picture of the house of common a rural person. If you see water around you, which kind of house? Remember, in this case, there is no condition of better life, health, and we can't speak about food. And the hunger, dear sir, is the worst form. Is the worst form of poverty. Well, in agroforest objectives, from ACRAF, we try to do this job from a project called BLENSA. What does it mean, BLENSA? Building a large evergreen agriculture network for Southern Africa. 4 countries together, Mozambique, South Africa, Botswana, and Malawi. Funded by Belgian government. I don't know if there is some Belgian peoples here. Flanders State of the Art through the World Agroforestry Center, ICRAF, from 2013 to 15. Achievements of this project was more than 200 farmers trained in agroforestry and livestock mitigation strategies using evergreen agriculture, in summary, and integrating agro-silvipastoral systems, crops and conservation agriculture. Well, we established 7 agroforest field demonstration of fruit trees planted in volunteers farmers using citrus, mangoes, avocado, and stop crops. We see here in this picture on my right, we had an excellent result on which in 2 years the farmer started to produce. This one, he had a small system of irrigation. The other 6, without this system irrigation, we are waiting for the first production on next year. Small wild animals such as Guinea fowl and cane rat for hunting mitigation, avoiding forest fire. It's very impressionant that, yes, that sometimes the fires are becoming due to hunting. Smallest threats are the cows. 6 fish pound we built. We see on my right a lady walking. We give extreme incentive to the women because, as you know, educate a woman is educate whole nation. Pilot of agroforestry nursery, community nurseries, and training of trainers in evergreen agriculture. Fire seminars we did, and the major challenge at last, the adoption of resilient technologies due to poor technical assistance, the lack of staff commitment and extreme soil types, community poverty, food insecurity, resistance to change. Small project, lifetime closes the cycle of challenges restricting the adoption process. They expand this pilot initiative at the location to benefit more people is our objective, to improve and expand the activities done during this pilot phase, to improve the life of rural population from semi-arid and in South African zone. Sponsors, please, as African proverb say, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, goes together. That's why we're here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Eduardo. For our third speaker, Dr. MD Rabah Alam would talk about ecological status and environmental protection, the role of Avicennia phasalis in the vulnerable coastal regions of Bangladesh, an overview.
Next. This one next. Yes. This one will last. Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Honorable moderators, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity for my presentation. CFC delegates and distinguished guests, you all are welcome to my presentation. I am Muhammad Rabiul Alam, faculty of Forestry and Wood Technology discipline of Khulna University, Bangladesh. My presentation title is Ecological Status and Environmental Protective Role of Avicennia officinalis in the vulnerable coastal regions of Bangladesh. Here there are 3 key points. One is ecological status, another is environmental protective role of Avicennia officinalis, and another key point is vulnerability of the coastal regions of Bangladesh. We know 80% of the land in Bangladesh is below 1 meter from the mean sea level. It means that only 20% of the land in Bangladesh is above 1 meter from the sea level. Coastal regions of Bangladesh covers more than 20 districts, and it covers 30% of the country's cultivable land. Right now, coastal population in Bangladesh is about 40 million, and it is expected that by the year 2050, this population will rise up to 57 million. And it is scientifically known that climate is changing and sea level is rising due to global warming, etc. And a 50 centimeter sea level rise will evict 35 million people from the coastal regions of Bangladesh by the year 2050. It means that if a large number of people is dislocated from the coastal regions of Bangladesh,
it will exert extra pressure, tremendous pressure on the remaining portion of Bangladesh. And we have Sundarbans, the world's largest mangrove forest of Bangladesh. This Sundarban provides protection to the coastal dwellers against natural calamities. And in the Sundarbans, Abyssinia officinalis is one of the major pioneer species in mangrove succession. And here is the significance of my selecting this species. I have two objectives in my review work. First one is to know the ecological status of Abyssinia officinalis in the coastal regions of Bangladesh. And the second one is to know the environmental protective role of this species. Now, before knowing the objective, we want to know the vulnerability of the coastal regions of Bangladesh. Bangladesh is located at the mouth of funnel-shaped Bay of Bengal. Because of her location, it is extremely vulnerable to sea level rise and other natural disasters. And it is known that in the last 100 years, more than 500 tropical cyclones originated in the Bay of Bengal. And it is calculated that roughly 9 lakh people died due to natural calamities in the last 35 years. So the coastal regions of Bangladesh is extremely vulnerable. Because of the funnel shape of Bay of Bengal, it is easy to identify that the tidal amplitude of the Bay of Bengal is very high. In the western side, it is only 3 meter, and the middle portion of the coastal region, the tidal amplitude is 5 meter because the water is coming from a wider range and going into the narrow range in the coastal regions. So tidal amplitude is going very high. It is also known that global mean temperature rises to 4.4 millimeter per year in the recent 3 years. So as the sea level is rising, salt intrusion into the coastal regions is very common. And this salt intrusion affects 50% of the coastal regions of Bangladesh. It is also scientifically known that increased salinity is changing the habitat pattern of the Sundarban. And due to these natural calamities, land erosion and deposition are common in the coastal regions. Because Bangladesh is a country of rivers, a large number of rivers meet with the Bay of Bengal in the coastal regions, and there is always turbulence in the coastal region. So Bangladesh is one of the worst victims of climate change in these considerations. We have, besides our Sundarban, we have coastal plantations. We know Bangladesh government started coastal afforestation program in 1966 from the learning that Sundarban provides us protection from the natural calamities. So we want to plant mangrove species in the coastal regions of Bangladesh so that we can get the protective role of the forest. Now, how Sundarban maintains sustainable vegetation cover? In mangrove succession, our species in Corsin, that is Abyssinia officinalis, is the major pioneer species. And pioneer species means the species that comes first in any newly activated land, and it will create suitable environment for the species of next several stages of successional processes. So in that way, Sundarbans can maintain a sustainable vegetation cover. So that I have selected this species. Now, ecological status of Abyssinia officinalis in the coastal regions of Bangladesh. First of all, I want to have a look about the global distribution of this species. The species is globally distributed in the Indo-Pacific region, not only in Bangladesh, it is also growing in the Indo-Pacific regions. In Bangladesh, Abyssinia officinalis is the pioneer species in picture. It is shown in newly accreted land. The species will come first, and it is well known and scientifically known that Sundarban is divided into 3 ecological zones based on the level of salinity. One is less saline zone from 5.5 to 5 ppt. Another is moderately saline water zone from 5 to 18 ppt, and high saline zone from 18 to 28 or 30 ppt. In this range of salinity, the vegetation composition is different. In freshwater zone, vegetation composition is different. Moderately saline water zone, another species is dominant, and in strongly saline water zone or high saline zone, another species is dominant. But in all these 3 saline zones, Abyssinia officinalis is distributed equally and form pure patches and serves as a pioneer species and creates a suitable environment for other species to come and grow and establish in the Sundarbans. Considering its ecological role, Bangladesh government and the Forest Department of Bangladesh initiated coastal afforestation program with Abyssinia officinalis and Sonarsia apitala. Of these 2 species, Sonarsia apitala has been affected by stem borer. After plantation, within few years, 52% of the Sonarsia apitala plantation has been affected by Kevra stem borer. Then the government and the forest department decided for a mixed plantation with Abyssinia officinalis. Then the severity of this damage decreases. So, in addition to this, Abyssinia officinalis is also planted on the more saline areas, considering its ecological status in the high saline of the Sundarban. So, Abyssinia officinalis is extremely important for the coastal regions of Bangladesh. Here in the picture above, large tree is Abyssinia officinalis. It grows from the first and creates suitable environment for the other species just below it, and thereby Sundarban sustains a vegetation cover, and in this way it continues to play its protective role for the coastal regions of Bangladesh against natural calamities. Besides this, its protective role against natural calamities, Abyssinia officinalis in the coastal regions, particularly on the riverbank side, they grow very densely and create natural barriers. In that way, it reduces the velocity of wave energy and tidal surges. And it is scientifically studied that wave energy is reduced to half while passing through a 50-meter width of mangrove vegetation. If Abyssinia officinalis is allowed to grow densely in these coastal regions, it will reduce the wave energy, tsunami and tidal surges, thereby it will reduce the salt intrusion in the coastal regions of Bangladesh.
Last 1 minute, please.
Abyssinia officinalis stabilizes coastal areas. It usually grows in the river banks. In the left-hand side picture, it is shown that river bank is eroded, but on the right-hand side, Abyssinia officinalis stabilizes the river bank. Now, so far 110 acres of stable land has been already transferred to Ministry of Land due to the land stabilization role of this species. Now, prospect. New land is being formed at a rate of 35 kilometers square per year, so Abyssinian Nations has a great opportunity to continue playing its role in the coastal regions. Now, conclusion, Bangladesh is the worst victim of climate change, and Abyssinian Nations is the pioneer species of mangrove succession, which grows at all salinity levels, and it will create suitable environment for other species to come, and then a sustainable vegetation cover can be maintained, and thereby it will continue to play its role to protect against natural calamities. It reduces salt intrusion and serves as a land stabilizer, thereby creating a very stable and habitable coastal region for the new generation to come. Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Alam. Now I call upon Dr. V.R.S. Rawat. His topic is RED for incentivizing forest conservation in Uttarakhand Himalayas in India. Dr. V.R.S., please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderators. Good afternoon. Since day one, yesterday, right from inaugural session and today's Global Forestry Conclave, RED Plus is word that coming frequently, and everyone is addressing, mentioning RED Plus in the presentation. So I'd like to present the RED Plus. What is the story behind RED Plus? How India has been successful in transforming RED to RED Plus, and what we are doing in RED Plus and implementing RED Plus at national level. So coming to the story of RED Plus, that forest constitute, as on the 5th assessment report, forest constitute is contributing about 9 to 11% of total GHG emission. And at that time when RED Plus was negotiated in Montreal, that time it was 20 to 25% global emission was coming from the forest. So it was decided that if we can address the 20 to 25% emission that is coming from forest, at least the 20 to 25% solution to global climate change could come from forestry sector. And this was the agenda that agreed in Montreal, reducing emissions from deforestation in developing countries, named as RED. Then back home, we pondered on this agenda item that this agenda is going to benefit only the countries where large-scale deforestation is happening. Countries like India, China, where strong conservation policies are there. These countries stand at disadvantage because of this agenda. So we try to develop our own policy approach. In India, in our submission, we divided developing forest nation in two groups. One is the countries with decreasing forest cover. Large number of developing countries are the forest cover is decreasing, while very handful of countries, very small group of countries led by China and India, where forest cover is increasing or are almost stabilized. So we prepare our negotiating position with the support from these countries, and ultimately the Indian viewpoint was that a ton of carbon saved because of deforestation should be treated equally with a ton of carbon that is added through conservation and sustainable management of forests. Ultimately, in Bali, this concept was agreed, and the RED became RED Plus with the very strong India's negotiating position, and these lines in red fonts, and the role of conservation, sustainable management of forests, and enhancement of forest carbon stocks in developing countries was added to the original agenda of RED Plus. RED and RED became RED Plus. So it was a big victory of Indian delegation in Bali, and then from Bali we went to Cancun, where for the scope of RED Plus was finalized. Vijay Sharma Sahab was there in Cancun, where the scope of RED Plus was finalized. Ultimately, these 5 activities was agreed as RED Plus activities. First 2 activities are original RED activities, reducing emission from deforestation, reducing emission from forest degradation, and last 3 activities are plus part of RED Plus: conservation of forest carbon stock, sustainable management of forests, and enhancement of forest carbon stock. We further moved that Cancun agreement also decided that countries to implement RED Plus must have these 4 building blocks in place. They must have a national strategy or action plan for RED Plus, a strong national forest monitoring system, a safeguard information system, and a forest reference level, a benchmark against which the incentive will be provided to the countries. And also the RED Plus was to be implemented in a phased manner. First phase starts with the development of national strategies, action plan, followed by your demonstration activities, pilot activities, finally coming into a full-fledged RED Plus that will be result-based actions that should be fully measurable, reportable and verifiable, MRVable. So there are the three activities, and Cancun decision also have a strong verdict on safeguards that implementing RED Plus must have a strong safeguard. There are safeguards for biodiversity, social safeguards, environmental safeguards are built in, and every country has to prepare a safeguard reporting system while addressing. There is a component of the respect for knowledge and right for indigenous people and member of local communities, and full and effective participation of all relevant stakeholders while implementing RED Plus. And finally, in Warsaw framework for RED Plus was decided, agreed, where all the methodological guidance for implementation of RED Plus were completed. And ultimately, Paris Agreement, the RED Plus is mentioned in Paris Agreement, and initially the agenda of RED Plus was introduced as a mitigation option, but finally Paris Agreement, it has agreed that it is a joint mitigation adaptation program, and all components of RED Plus are there in Article 5 of Paris Agreement. So issues for RED Plus in India, that as I told that we needed a national strategy and action plan for RED Plus. Government of India is working on this. A draft national strategy and action plan is almost ready. That is, I think 1 or 2 meetings will be held and that will be finalized. We are in the process of developing a safeguard information system. FSI has already developed a reference emission level. Some stakeholders consultation is required for finalizing the national reference level. Insofar as MRV is concerned, we are very strong for FSI. Every the biennial update reports are coming from FSI as far as India's state of forest reports are concerned. We need to develop some pilot and demonstration activities for RED Plus. Some small activities have been started. From these activities, we'll have some idea that how the quantification of RED Plus is to be made and how the benefit will be, that RED Plus benefit will be shared with the community. So very few small pilot activities have already been started in India. One small project is already functioning. It's in Meghalaya. It's registered under Plan Vivo standard in Umiam watershed. In Uttarakhand, we are working on a small RED Plus project in Nainital Forest Division. With the USAID project called Forest Plus, we are working in India in 4 landscapes in Karnataka, in Harda district of Hosangabad, in East Sikkim, and Chamba in Himachal Pradesh. And very recently, in the collaboration of the ICFRE has started a transboundary RED Plus Himalaya project, where our focus is main focus in capacity building on Northeast India, and we are trying to develop a pilot project in the state of Mizoram under this transboundary project. Here we are collaborating with India, Nepal, Bhutan, and Myanmar. This project is addressing the RED Plus issues in these 4 countries. So coming to the small pilot project, we are working in Uttarakhand. The idea was Uttarakhand has strong visibility of community partnership in forest, community management of forest. We call One Panchayat in Uttarakhand, and the community participation is ingrained in RED Plus. So we approach Uttarakhand Forest Department with a pilot project, and Uttarakhand Forest Department was kind enough to, under their Kampa fund, give us a small project for implementing RED Plus. This is a project that we are working in a Kalsa-Golasa watershed, around 61,000 hectares of forest of land area. We had a small consultation meeting with Uttarakhand Forest Department and other stakeholders, where we decided that this is the watershed in the Kalsa-Gola watershed, where actually under watershed development program some forestry work was already done with the community, so that we could take advantage of that work that's already been done under that watershed. Then we had another meeting with the officials of State Forest Department in Haldwani. We had a consultation meeting with the communities in that particular area in Padpani under the Dolgad watershed. Objective of the pilot was to estimate the carbon status in these forests and develop a transparent MRV system, testing the safeguard information system, and ultimately to get the project registered for the carbon credits under some voluntary carbon standards. and going through the applicability conditions of a voluntary standard and what were on ground on that area, we decided to develop this project on the line of a voluntary standard. VM006 is under voluntary carbon standards. And this is the project area. As a Kalsa Gola was a small watershed level we are working. There are 16 micro watershed. Total project area is around 61,000 hectares. So this is the yellow in between the project area. And the red line is as per the requirement of the methodology. We have to develop a leakage belt, and another outside the leakage belt is the reference area of the project. So this is a leakage belt is around 69,000 hectares. Reference area as per the methodology, the reference area should be minimum 250,000 should have been the minimum size of the reference area. So it's around 423,000 hectares the reference area for the project. So this is the total size of the project we are working. Around these, as per Champion State Forest, 16 subgroup types of forests are reported from this sub-watershed. The methodology, once we have followed, what Forest Survey of India is following, 0.1 hectare sample plot under 123 sample plots we have laid down. Every tree has been marked, measured, height and diameter, herbs, shrubs have been measured, and the soil sample have been taken. This is that sample plot we are laying down. Every tree has been tagged with its height and diameter. Every tree has been given a number. Each plot has been, geo-coordinates of each plot have been recorded so that we can further visit that area again and again for further measurement of MRV. This is the soil samples taken, and initial assessment we have done, field work almost completed. And this is the status of the carbon in the various forest types. As a moist Shivalik forest has maximum carbon around 248 tons of carbon per hectare is reported from Shivalik forest. And then the socio-economic study we have conducted in the total project area. There are around 186 villages, 16,517 households. So the socio-economic survey, around 25 villages we have completed. We have done around 450 households. And then based on that socio-economic survey, we could come on the various drivers of degradation in the project site, and mainly it's a collection of the fuel wood for cooking purpose, is a source of for heating, fodder collection, cattle grazing, fire, collection of understory vegetation for livestock bedding and manuring, some small cases of encroachment, illicit felling is also there. This is the collection of fuel wood, some illicit removals, high degree of lopping, and we could, rough estimate says it's carbon loss around 4 tons of per hectare per year is a carbon because of removal of fuel wood, fodder and leaf litter from the project area. There are the various tools that how the people in local area collecting the leaf litter. Yes. Leaf litter from the forest, removal of pine needle. In this area, the people are also engaged in making briquettes for fuel purpose from pine needles. These are collections. So next step, once we have completed the field work, we are in the process of preparing a project design document that is to be submitted to a voluntary carbon standard. Then the project is to be registered after following a positive validation report from the validators. We have to conduct some capacity building program for the communities there, and to document the activities, whatever forestry activities that has been done in that area to address the drivers of deforestation degradation are to be documented in the form of a project design document. And once these things are completed, we'll submit this project for crediting to the international voluntary market. So to sum up, RED Plus is an innovative way to mitigate climate change through sustainable development, and it addresses the issues of adaptation also. India, we are working on our strategy, on RED Plus strategy, with small pilot activities that have already been initiated in India, and these pilot will provide us a good learning platform to implement RED Plus at national level, and we need to learn within and outside the country, synergize with other projects. And also a large-scale capacity building program is also required at Ministry of Environment and Forest has started some capacity building program for RED Plus, but that is required to be done at stakeholders and down at a lower level of forest staff as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rawat. A very interesting insight into the delivery of RED in India. And for our final presentation, Muthama from Kenya, Dr. Muthama from Kenya will talk about Botryosphaeriaceae as potential pathogens of Meliacean Kenyan arid, semi-arid grasslands, arid lands, ASALs. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to my presentation. My name is Angela Muthama. I'm from Kenya, which is in Eastern Africa. My presentation will be on Botryosphaeriaceae. I know it is quite a complicated name to say, but it actually refers to a fungal family that is quite cosmopolitan and a little bit problematic at the moment due to its characteristics, which I will share with you in my presentation. And we are looking at its potential to be a pathogen to Meliaceae, another group of plants, which actually is the mahogany family, which contains trees that have been planted widely in the tropical countries, in the Kenyan arid and semi-arid lands. Welcome. So as an introduction, climate change, as we have been talking about in the previous session and now, is a phenomenon that is projected to cause prolonged droughts, higher temperatures, and increased optimum conditions for disease-causing pathogens, both for plants and for trees as plants. Due to this, as was identified in the Kenya Climate Change Adaptation Plan in 2015, there is a need to find drought and disease-resistant species to be able to carry out efforts in reforestation and afforestation, which have been identified as effective strategies of adaptation to climate change. But even as we are talking about reforestation and afforestation, then it begs us to ask the question, then which kind of tree species should we use in these efforts? Because we know that there's also the threat of diseases and pests that affect tree ecosystems, tree families, and tree populations. And from Kenya, we have a scientist that say that the greatest threat to forest establishment in my country is the physiological stress that is caused by the prolonged droughts, which are characteristic of these areas, and also the poor soils that are found in these arid and semi-arid lands, as you will see from their ecological zone characteristics. So a little bit of introduction to my discipline, which is forest pathology. For disease to take place, for a tree or a plant, you need a susceptible host. You need a virulent pathogen, which depends on its biology and its type, and also you need environmental conditions that will be optimum for the host to be infected by the pathogen. We call this the disease triangle, all trapezium, because in those three factors, space and time being constant and going on, then human activities can be able to either change one factor to lead to disease, or can be able to change a factor to reduce the chances of a disease taking place. And that is what informed this project. So what is a disease? I keep saying disease, and I know most of us are familiar with the disease from the human perspective. But when it comes to disease, or for trees or plants, it is any disturbance of a plant that interferes with its normal structure, function, or economic value. A pathogen which causes disease is the disease-causing agent, while the host is the organism from which a pathogen depends on. So why are we speaking about climate change and relating it with diseases? For trees, climate change is expected either to change the pathogen or to make the host susceptible given the optimum environmental conditions. And as you have heard from many of the presentations on climate change, we are expecting effects on our environment. We're expecting more pests and diseases to develop and spread wider outside their host range. And we're expecting our trees to experience more physiological stress due to the conditions that have been caused by this climate change. So then, what do we do about this? As someone asked in the morning, what is the solution? We keep saying climate change will do this, climate change has done this. So what can we do to prepare more for this climate change? So we're looking at a family called Meliaceae, which is the mahogany family. And the most common Meliaceae species in my country is a tree called Melia volkensi, which is indigenous to my country, and also Azadirachta indica, which we borrowed from India, but has now become naturalized in my country. Why are we focusing on this tree species? It actually has very good qualities in terms of the timber quality that comes from these trees, and it also has been seen to be resistant to pest and disease attack. So it produces very good quality timber, and this makes it very attractive for exploitation for the timber industry in my country. Why I picked on these two species, the two tree species, they have been quite promoted in some of the areas in my country, and they have multiple uses. For example, the timber, as I was mentioning, because of their resistance, and also they have been used for medicinal purposes, especially the neem. And so it would be easier to promote these tree species due to their multi-purpose nature, but also it would be easy to promote their use because they have been seen to have some form of resistance to pests and diseases. But then, even with this perceived resistance, there is a family of fungi that has been seen to be cosmopolitan. This is because it is widespread across the globe, except in the polar regions, and its name is Botryosphaeraceae. It is actually a family, so it has so many genus and species under it, and to be precise, it actually has 150 species under the Botryosphaeraceae family, divided into 17 genera, which makes it would be so hard to target it as a family, which makes it very important and key when you are talking about pathology in the climate change context. It is an endophyte. What an endophyte means is that you will not notice its symptoms in a healthy tree system, but when the tree becomes stressed due to either drought or fire damage, then this fungi, which was present in the healthy system, now produces symptoms and can lead to mortality of the tree. So why are we talking about these complicated Botryosphaeraceae and Meliaceae names? We have been promoting exotic tree species establishment for plantation purposes, namely the eucalyptus. We have a lot of clones coming in from tree biotechnology programs in South Africa, and we have also promoted Grevillea robusta. But due to the wide establishment of these species in my country, when the Botryosphaeraceae epidemic hit because of some changes in the weather patterns in my country, it led to death of so many trees, which led to losses in terms of economic losses, and also led to the presence of inoculum that infected other trees that had been indigenous and without problems. So the reason why we are studying this group of family for our indigenous tree species and the naturalized Azadirachta is that so that when we recommend these trees for climate change adaptation in terms of afforestation and reforestation efforts, we will not be adding to the epidemics of the Botryosphaeraceae, killing them also. So what do? We conduct a general survey, and we're able to enlist which Botryosphaeraceae we are dealing with, and then we can give the appropriate control measures, as well as maybe even recommend some species to be left out during the climate change adaptation efforts. So my study site, we studied areas that are under the agroecological zone 4 and 5, characterized by less than 500 millimeters annual rainfall and 400 to 700 meters above sea level, quite high temperatures, but also very poor soils in terms of fertility. That is a map of my beautiful country. The marks in black are the study site that we used for this project. The sampling design, we were targeting natural populations as well as on-farm trees, and so it was cluster sampling, which was quite purposive because we could not find these species just anywhere. They have been little established in the wild. Geographical area sampling was done, and the random populations were selected for the sample. As I said, it was a general survey of the trees that we found. Then in my discipline, you have to go back to the laboratory and analyze the samples that you have collected from the field. So we followed the process of using artificial nutrient media to be able to encourage the fungi to grow in the lab under the optimum conditions. And then you observe what kind of mycelia is coming out, which would then define and identify the fungi that is present. So to identify fungi, we usually use what we call colony color and mycelial texture. And we also take a single spore culture to the next level of DNA characterization, which is quite an advancement in technology. Before, they used to use spore suspensions to be able to identify, but because of a lot of confusion, especially for this fungal family, we are encouraged to use DNA species level identification. Now, it is not enough to say that we found this fungi in the wild. You have to go back to glasshouse conditions and actually inoculate the fungi into seedlings so that you can be able to confidently say that the fungi that you collected from the field is what led to the symptoms that you saw, and that you re-isolate it again. That is called the Cox postulate. And so for this, we conducted pathogenicity tests to help us also see this same fungi, can it cause symptoms and death or gum production or dieback in the other tree species that are usually established with our target tree species. So for my results, the symptoms that we found in the field, there was what we call tip dieback, there was stem cankers, there was gum exudation, and there was actually cases of death, but to quite a low percentage, that is 5%. The main fungal families we found were Botryosphaeraceae, which was actually our target species, to find out if it affects this Meliaceae that we were looking into. The disease severity depended on the different fungal species because they affect the tree differently. Despite high disease severity, which was quite a win for us, we realized that these trees had lower rates of mortality compared to the eucalypts and the Grevillea robusta. On the symptoms, I don't know if it is very clear, but there's the one on your left would be the fungi, the fungal culture from the Botryosphaeraceae, which is characterized by the black pigment. Then there was wound healing when we introduced the disease to the Meliaceae tree species, which is good because it means that it has some form of resistance or tolerance to the Botryosphaeraceae. The other one would be gum exudation, which is characteristic of Botryosphaeria. So for the DNA, we found the general Lasiodiplodia being very common, and the pathogenicity, we saw the symptoms coming out, but there was very reduced mortality. I will skip that. So what are we saying? From this work, we were able to get a perceived disease tolerance stroke resistance. And so we will recommend further research to be able to identify the best germplasm that we can use for establishment of plantations of Meliaceae, but also ongoing research is happening in my institute where we are doing tree breeding for increased resistance in these tree species. So I think today I can say, after all the discussions of climate change, adaptation and mitigation and impacts, there is a win in that there are some tree species that can help us fight this phenomenon. Thank you.
Thank you, Muthumma. Now all 5 presentations are over. Now the floor is open for discussion. Because of time, constraint of time, we have hardly now 20 minutes left. So we take 3 or 4 questions. Please come straightway to the question. Don't give much, say, theoretical background or anything, knowing the fact that all of you are highly research-based professionals over here. So, Dr. Harsh, please.
Thank you, sir. My question is to Angela. Angela, I support you that Botryosphaeraceae, it is a special group of pathogens causing stem canker and dieback in trees. But I differ from you that they are endophytes. Okay, the definition of endophytes are different. They are pathogens, fine. Then, as in the previous session, I just mentioned that we should be careful to reach in the conclusions that climate change is going to affect the diseases and insect pests. What we are saying, it is just, we are predicting. There are no database or no experimental data for this. So this is my observations. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Harsh. Now, I request
thank you, sir. I couldn't help but take the floor. The poetic eloquence of Mr. Eduardo Jose prompted me to say this, that if it was not for a Portuguese-speaking person, the history of the world would have been completely different. It was a Portuguese speaker who rounded the Cape of Good Hope to discover an absolutely new way of reaching India. And we are very happy, Eduardo Jose, for being here with us. Now that I have this equipment with me, may I say that adaptation to climate change has completely changed the way we are now looking at forests. It has changed the prism. In fact, adaptation to climate change even has taken that north-south debate away, because now it is the national capacities which have to be built. And we have a situation, for instance, where international legislation, all the rules have to be made by the national governments, and the implementation has to take place by the subnational, the provinces, the districts. So there should be some way, and this is not a question, but I'm sure this will make some pondering possible, that all our research institutes, agricultural universities, the entire system would need to gear up to the modern climate change debate. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Hello. Thank you, Chair, for giving me the floor. I must appreciate Mr. Rabiul for his presentation about the protective role of Abyssinia officinalis in the coastal belt of Bangladesh, the vulnerable coastal area of Bangladesh. And he has appreciated the role of Forest Department in creating this green belt along the coast from 1966. He mentioned about two species. One is Abyssinia officinalis, and he mentioned other species, that is Sonaricinia habitalis. And that is also a very pioneer species. In some passages we have some disease problem. Otherwise, Sonaricinia far better performing in coastal area than Abyssinia. But we have another species, that is Rhizophora. He didn't mention about it. Can he comment about the other species? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, last question, madam. Oh, yes, please. Yeah.
Thank you. My question goes to the Mozambican. In your presentation, you made mention that a rise of 45 centimeters the sea level may mean the destruction of, let's say, 35 million people. And to me, I just want to ask, with respect to tidal wave, is the country having any technology to at least watch whatever is occurring at the sea level to avoid tsunamis? Thank you.
So, I request the first speaker, Muthumma, please. The first question was for you by Dr. Harsh. The first question, please.
Thank you, Harsh. I think it was more of a comment where he was mentioning that Botryophyra is not an endophyte, it is a pathogen, but that has been debated for so long, is that they say that there are some genera that are endophytes and become pathogenic when there's physiological stress, and there are those that are straight away pathogenic. So when I'm talking about the family, I kind of generalize because most of them have been classified as endophytes. But I will definitely consult you for more discussion on that. Thank you.
Yeah, Dr. Edwarda Joes, question number 2 and 4. They were addressed to you.
First of all, hello. First of all, I would like to thanks again, simultaneously to Dr. Harsh for the congratulation of the Mozambican presentation. Thank you very much indeed. This is a effort to do our best for them in the next opportunity. Secondly, about Mozambique sea level, I couldn't understand how wide is the question. Anyway, Mozambique, only at the central part is under the sea level. In whole country is above. But the main problem of Mozambique, of that floods in particular, is because the interland countries, namely Republic of Zimbabwe and South Africa, they are quite more developed in terms of water dams. What is happening? When the rain season comes, we assume the raining in the country and outside of the country. But always, before the dams, the internal dams, goes to the high level possible, the water is retained there. But from the time on which the raining is continuing after full capacity of dams, this country open this water and go down, pass from Mozambique and spread to everywhere. Luckily, we are in continuing communication with these interland countries. Information I would like to say in terms of rivers level along the rain season. But there is no way. There is no way. The answer is to look for high places to run from this situation. At the end, in this case, the combination of floods and dry season, become the Mozambican life extremely difficult. This pilot project that we developed along 2013 to 16, more or less, it was exactly to find a kind of production that can support the local population. That's why we call it the resilient technologies to support the difficult moments. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Your last question. Yeah, Dr. Alam, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your question. We know coastal area is open, and our coastal afforestation program started with pioneer species, because other species will not grow in the coastal areas unless and unless the pioneer species grow and create a favorable environment for other species. So my concentration is only on pioneer species. I have talked only one key point, that is favorable environment. Rhizophora, you have told about Rhizophora species. Rhizophora is not the pioneer species. Sonacea petala or Abyssinia officinalis, this type of pioneer species grow fast, establish fast, then it will create a favorable environment for other species of next several stages of mangrove succession. So, as the coastal afforestation program is initiated in the open areas, my concentration is only on pioneer species. If we cannot establish the pioneer species, we cannot maintain a suitable environmental condition for other species to come and establish and colonize on the newly accreted land. So, and second thing is, the Bangladesh government yet didn't take any initiative for the harvesting of the coastal plantation. Our objective is to create a green belt or a protective barrier against natural calamities, so we are not harvesting. If the government take an initiative for partial harvesting, then we can go for introducing another species like Sundari or Rhizophora or Exocaria agalocha, that is the next cereal species. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I think that I will hand over to my colleague here to sum up. But it's been a very fine session, running from the sort of the overall picture for Asian Pacific forests through the detailed challenges on the ground and the relationship with international projects, through to the fine detail of pathology and the changing patterns of plant health, which must be at the heart of forestry. So I will hand over to my colleague here.
Thank you, Harry. I would start with the overall adaptation to climate change, what exactly we are looking for. The impact is already there on the human being, on the forest, flora, fauna, agriculture sector, coastal areas, mean sea rise, and so on and so forth. All of you know very well. But I would like to comment on each and every presenter, those who have come up with excellent examples with critical analysis, with study, research-based, their models, starting with Dr. Wong, who was the first presenter, Adaptation of Asia-Pacific Forests to Climate Change. And he presented on behalf of John Innes, and the country they had taken up was Colombia. Anyway, so he has rightly mentioned about what type of challenges we are facing as on today. So far as overall impact of climate change on forests is concerned, and they have come up with the help of GIS application, excellent climate models. Then they have come up with what exactly we should have the adaptive management for Asia-Pacific region overall, and giving the example of, couple of examples of China, Malaysia, and some of the other South Asian countries. And the last, their finding was, let us integrate this impact of climate change, how to adapt to climate change, and modify our forest management system. So thank you very much, Dr. Wong. It's highly appreciative. And your research-based study with critical analysis will go long way, not only for the South Asian region, but for the entire forest fraternity in the whole, on the whole. Thank you, Dr. Wong. Second is Dr. Eduardo Jose from Mozambique. He not only highlighted the vulnerability angles or issues or aspects of Mozambique or that part of the world, that is African continent, but yes, he highlighted impact of fire or degradation, soil erosion, soil low productivity angle, soil degradation, deforestation, and so on and so forth, leading to some of the natural disasters. But one thing I appreciate on behalf of your organization and through you, you have already developed linkage with the ICRAF. And in the arid and semi-arid area, what type of agro-forestry, say horti and pastoral system should be developed. And you have already started this integrated system. Not only that, but you have already started training, gone for the TOTs, training of trainers, and that too getting involved more than 200 farmers. Well done, Dr. Jose. Thank you very much. I'm sure most of our delegates must have been benefited. Third one, from Bangladesh, Muhammad Alam. Again, on one hand, importance of Sundarbans is well known. Is one of the natural heritage, UNESCO heritage in the world. So, but on the other hand, he says that millions of people, it's more than 14, 15 million people are very, very vulnerable to the impact of climate change. And they need to adapt to the system because of mean sea rise, because of impact of climate change. And he also mentioned, which is a very, very high figure, almost 30 to 30,000 people are dying every year because of this catastrophe, because of natural disaster, because of floods, because of submergence of the area. And the species, as it was rightly mentioned by one of the delegates, it's not only the Avicennia officinalis we should work on, which has quite in abundance along the coastal areas of India, coastal areas of Myanmar or Indonesia, and maybe Bangladesh and other countries. But your effort is highly appreciative so far as overall using the type of species, whether it is Avicennia officinalis or any other species, they can play very, very important role during tsunami, during any disaster linked with the coastal area. So thank you very much on behalf of all the delegates. Thank you. From the environmental and protective angles, they play very, very important role. Dr. V.R.S. Rawat, who is co-author with Dr. T.P. Singh and other his research colleagues, he has rightly mentioned about the chronological history, how we have come to this stage in 2017. Importance of forest conservation. Example of some of the pilot projects, not only in, say, Meghalaya, which was the pioneer project. And I would like to just mention that this project in Uttarakhand, near Nainital, was in consultation with Dr. VRS, and I am RVS, conceptualized by both of us. And I'm sure the way they have taken up this project in 7 provinces of the country, they have given the futuristic type of view and the way forward, what exactly on the basis of our findings in these 7 pilot projects or states with the help of USAID or any other donor agency, I'm sure it will go a long way. And they have already started with, so far as Uttarakhand project near Nainital is concerned, 123 pilot, they call it plots or sample plots. And I'm sure when they verify on the ground, that will increase the credibility. That will also, say, address the concern of MRB so far as the overall climate change RED plus overall system is concerned. And for the capacity building and other further discussions they are doing with the communities, that has to be done. Because if we are saying that the forests have to be conserved or they have to preserve, the biodiversity has to be preserved, at what cost? At the cost of community. So in consultation with the community or their involvement, I'm sure these projects will go long way. The last, which was again very, very important, Mutamma from Kenya Forest Research Institute, you have not only highlighted the issues of overall impact of climate change on the Miliaceae family in particular, but what the pathogens can play a role in, say, to some sort of mitigational from angle, and that could eventually lead to adaptation to climate change so far as the particular species are concerned. And you have already started field trials. Unless we say we from the lab to field, on the basis of research findings to the field, we transfer the research findings, I think our research will go only in the labs. So thank you very much for starting your field trials. My last comment would be the research or researches must go on. As the theme of this CFC 2017 is prosperity and poverty. How to eradicate poverty, whether we link with the SDGs or as Mr. Vijay Sharma has rightly conveyed his concern, in totality, how to deal with the sector is very important. With these small projects, research findings, I am sure all of us are going to be benefited. Thank you very much for your patient hearing here, and you have spared your valuable time. Just for your information, there is another side event in the extension hall, which is going to be presented or explained by me. Please join there. It is for the benefit of the researchers, academicians, foresters, professionals who are either in the service or retired. So thank you very much once again. Thank you on behalf of all, and I once again thank all the speakers and especially Dr. Harry as moderator. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thanks to the moderators for the smooth conduction of the session, and congratulations to all the presenters for their nice presentation. Now I would like to request Sir Harry Studholme, moderator of the session, to kindly present the memento to our speaker. The first speaker is Dr. Wong. Sir, I would request you again to present the memento to our second speaker, Dr. Eduardo. Sir, kindly present the memento to our third speaker, Muhammad Rabiul Alam. Thank you so much, sir. Now I would like to request Dr. RBS Rawat, our second moderator, to kindly present the memento to our next speaker, Dr. VRS Rawat. Sir, I would request you again to kindly present the memento to our last speaker, Dr. Muthamma. Thank you, sir. Now I would like to request Dr. Eva Muller, Director, Forest Policy and Resources Division, FAO, to present the memento to our moderators. First to Sir Harry Studholme. Kindly, ma'am, present the memento to our second moderator, Dr. RBS Rawat. Thank you, ma'am. Now, I would like to request our rapporteurs to may kindly synthesize your report with session moderators. And for your record, there are two side events. One has already been mentioned by Dr. RBS Rawat. And another one is based on Eco Task Force. It will be held in NFLIC Hall. So you people are requested to attend the event as per your interest. And the second one is, after that, cultural event on Glimpses of India is going to be organized. So you people are requested to attend that, followed by gala dinner at Officers Club. Thank you so much.